So today we're diving deep into something BYD is calling flash charge. And look, on the surface, the claims are just staggering. It could completely shake up the entire EV market. But from where I'm sitting, those performance numbers look almost too good. So the real question we have to ask is this: is this a genuine leap in technology, or is it just a financial time bomb ticking away on their balance sheet? Let's get into it. Right. Let's just frame the entire conversation with that one question. Seriously, what if pulling into a charging station was actually faster than stopping for gas? I'm not talking about grabbing a coffee for 30 minutes while you wait. I mean a total paradigm shift that wipes out the last single biggest advantage that gasoline cars have. That's the core premise we're analyzing. Okay, but before we even touch the tech specs, we need to understand the timing here. BYD's chairman calls this the second half of electrification. And what he means is that the easy part, selling to early adopters who don't mind a little inconvenience, that's basically over. Now we're in the second half, the hard part, trying to win over everybody else, and they are not nearly as forgiving.
Exactly. The first half was all about brute force. How do we solve range anxiety? Just cram in bigger, heavier, more expensive batteries. But the game has totally changed. The second half is all about solving refueling inconvenience. This is a battle of logistics, of infrastructure, not just who can build the biggest battery pack.
And this number right here, this is why the business model for public charging is completely broken. 5.6%. That is the average power utilization rate for a DC fast charger out in the wild. From a capital deployment standpoint, that is an absolute catastrophe. You're putting this incredibly expensive asset in the ground with a massive grid connection, and for more than 94% of the day, it's just sitting there, burning cash. It's a financial black hole.
And that's the thing. That financial black hole is exactly what BYD is going after. They think the answer isn't just making a faster battery. It's about building a whole new vertically integrated system that completely rewrites the economic rulebook for charging infrastructure.
And here it is, the headline number that could change everything: 5 minutes. That's what they're claiming for a 10% to 70% charge. Now, this isn't just a small step up, it's a total game changer. It makes the experience of refueling an EV basically identical to stopping at a gas station. But I have to ask, what in the world does that do to the battery? We'll get back to that.
Okay, now this is where it gets really smart from a strategic perspective. They're creating what we'd call a geographical moat. 12 minutes. That's the charge time at -30 Celsius. This is a direct attack on the biggest weakness of every EV out there: performance in the bitter cold. Think about huge, wealthy markets like Canada, Scandinavia, Northern China, places where EV sales just plummet every winter. This isn't just a feature, it's a go-to-market strategy. I'll give them that. It's a compelling one.
And this is crucial. All this speed doesn't mean you're giving up range. The Denza Z9 GT, which uses this new battery, is still rated for over 1,000 kilometers. So what BYD is claiming here is that they've solved the first half problem of range anxiety and the second half problem of refueling speed, all at the same time.
And this quote from their chairman lays out the strategy perfectly. They're not just trying to put a Band-Aid on the problem with slightly better chargers or by pushing what he calls a social cost onto you and me to install home chargers. Nope, they've pinpointed the absolute root of what's holding back the mass market, and they're trying to solve it from the ground up.
Okay, that's a brilliant story. It's a fantastic narrative. But from a risk modeling perspective, those numbers are screaming for a reality check. In my world, when performance claims sound this good, they have a nasty habit of showing up a few years later on the balance sheet as a massive, unexpected warranty expense or a huge capital overrun. So let's just break this down logically. On one hand, BYD is claiming insane speed with almost no degradation. But on the other hand, basic battery physics tells us that shoving that much current into a battery creates enormous thermal and chemical stress. So a few key questions come to mind. What does the degradation curve look like in the real world? Who's on the hook for a battery replacement if it doesn't perform? And what's the real all-in cost to build these new proprietary stations? Let's zero in on this claim right here: 500 flash charge cycles. They say that's equal to about 15 years of use, but the definition of a cycle is everything. Are they assuming every single charge is one of these 1.5 megawatt flash charges? Or is it based on a more realistic mix of fast and slow charging? The fine print here could be worth billions, because if real-world use degrades the battery even slightly faster than they project, BYD is going to be replacing millions of batteries on their own dime.
And that brings us right back to the central risk question we started with. Is this battery a true marvel of engineering that somehow defies the normal laws of physics?
Or is BYD just trading future warranty liabilities for splashy marketing headlines today? Because if their degradation models are off by even a tiny fraction, the financial fallout could be absolutely immense.
See, I think focusing only on the car's battery is actually missing the real genius here. The car is just the delivery system. The real strategy, the real Trojan horse, is in the infrastructure. This is where the competitive mode gets really, really deep, and the whole return on investment story gets a lot more interesting.
Yeah, and let's be really clear about the physics problem they're up against. A typical grid connection to a commercial building might give you 100 kilowatts. Your competitors, they're building 350 kilowatt chargers. BYD is talking about a 1.5 megawatt charger. You don't just plug that into an extension cord. In most places on Earth, drawing that kind of power would require its own dedicated substation, making it incredibly expensive and slow to roll out.
And that is the elegance of the Trojan horse. They don't need a powerful grid. It's a three-step process. Step 1, they find a cheap, weak, 100 kilowatt grid connection that their competitors would just laugh at. Step 2, they install their own massive on-site battery, their energy storage system, which acts like a power amplifier. It just slowly sips power from the grid 24/7. And then step 3, a car shows up, and the ESS unleashes all that stored energy at once, delivering over a megawatt of power. They are literally arbitraging the grid.
Okay, I have to admit, that is the most compelling piece of this whole strategy. It's a direct solution to that awful 5.6% utilization problem. Now the grid connection is being used almost 100% of the time, trickling power into the buffer. This could genuinely turn a low-return, capital-heavy problem into a high-return, technology-driven competitive moat.
So, wait a minute. If BYD owns the power generation through its solar business, the energy storage through its ESS division, and the energy application with its cars and chargers, it forces you to ask a much bigger question. What kind of company are we even looking at anymore?
And when you look at this timeline, you realize this wasn't some sudden pivot. This idea, the three green dreams of solar, storage, and EVs, was something they were talking about way back in 2006. They've been pouring money into these divisions, often losing money, for almost 20 years. This isn't a reaction to the market, it's the final move in a very, very long game.
The level of vertical integration here is just staggering. I mean, they control the entire energy value chain, from the moment a photon hits a solar panel to the moment that energy propels a vehicle. The key question for us, as analysts, is, has the market woken up to this? Are they still valuing BYD like a boom-and-bust car company, or are they starting to see it as this fully integrated energy tech ecosystem? And that really brings us to the ultimate question of valuation. How do you value this company? Do you use the multiples of a traditional car maker like Ford, low, cyclical, and drowning in capital costs? Or do you start applying the valuation framework you'd use for a tech-driven utility like NextEra Energy, with its defensible modes and predictable recurring revenue? The difference between those two outcomes is astronomical, which leaves us with this final question, our core variant perception. Is BYD just a car company that got really good at making batteries? Or is it using its cars as a Trojan horse to build the first truly integrated global energy utility of the future? The answer to that question is going to define not just BYD's next decade, but maybe the entire energy landscape. Thanks for joining us.